What's the questions? I give up.
Okay. You were born in Forbush, Iowa, at Graham Hospital in November of 1930, and you lived in Centerville, Iowa. So, what was it like to grow up in a small town, and what do you remember a little bit about your early childhood home and that whole area?
Well, it was a little mining town north of Centerville, and they called it Forbush. And I think there was only about 5 houses, maybe, in that neighborhood on the one road. And the school, the country school, was pretty close. But as you grow up, you know that school was a mile and a half away, and it was tough getting there. So uh, it was really closer than you figured it was.
Hmm. So, how many people are in the town? How is it real?
It wasn't the town. It was just like uh, 3 or 4 houses. Let's see. On one side of the road there was 1, 2, 3, about 5 houses. On the other side there was 2 or 3. So it actually wasn't a town. It was just a bunch of miners that built their houses there.
So you had an older brother, Bill Shubat. Did you two share any similar interests or play with any of the same friends? And um, who did you hang out with in terms of friends and
And when I was real little, it was one of the neighbor kids, two brothers, Hank and Clyde Strickler.
hmm
And we usually walked to school with him. Well, my brother too. We walked to school together. Uh, there wasn't any other closer kids than those.
Okay. So not too many people in the school. I mean, do you remember that? Well, here at, in 1942, at age 12, you won a book reading award from the county superintendents of school. Here's that award. You remember that?
No, I don't remember this at all. Oh, no.
Well, you won it for reading books. So, were you always a good student? And what was the schoolhouse like that you were at? I mean, it was a small town.
There was 2 rooms, 2 room school, and the one room was in front of the school, which was where you hung your coat and all that type of stuff. So the teacher would be giving one class, she'd be talking to me, but she might be talking to somebody else too.
So there's a few kids at different ages. How many kids were in there? Like
Let's see,
5,
two,
10, 20?
4, 6, 7. I would say 10 or less
10 or less kids in the whole school.
in the whole school.
What was your favorite class in that school? What class did you like the best?
I don't remember. I don't remember anything about that. Which one?
Okay. Was there anything you didn't like? One of your classes like, oh, I don't want to go to this class.
I
Don't remember that. That's
don't
okay.
remember that.
Okay. Um, well, you guys ended up moving to Chicago. Is that right?
Yeah.
From there. So, how old were you when you moved to Chicago?
I think 12, and it must have been that right after the war started.
Okay.
So I was probably 11 or 12 years old.
Well, what made you guys move to Chicago?
My dad had a good friend that used to live in Forbush, moved to Chicago. He was a welder, and he got a job right away in the war effort. And he talked my dad into moving to Chicago because my dad was a welder too.
Okay, okay. So you followed Jake into Chicago,
Yeah.
basically. And did you work while you were in Chicago? Did you get jobs?
I used to shine shoes, and I
Shine
just
shoes.
thought of that. I would had one of them little things with my polish and everything in it. And I'd go in bars and shine shoes, quarter a piece, I think it was, 25 cents.
Oh yeah. So you would take your shoe box in with you to the.
Oh, sure, I'd go right in the bar. The guys be sitting at the bar. I'd be
They-
shining their shoes.
Well, that's pretty good. So you're in Chicago. How long were you in Chicago?
My parents got a divorce. I don't know exactly what year, but I think we probably were. I'm trying to guess.
Well, what?
I'm guessing 3 years.
Okay, 3 years.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's correct or not.
Okay. So, is that where you met Joan Neeb at that time, or not that time?
Not that time.
Okay, okay. So you had a pretty challenging childhood with your parents getting divorced when you were pretty young. You know, what, you're thinking 15, something like that? Or how old were you?
That must have been 14 or 15.
Okay, and then you ended up living with your mother, Dorothy, right?
When they got a divorce, my mother moved to Colorado
Okay.
because her brother was there.
Okay.
And so that's when we went to Colorado too.
And which brother of her brothers, of the Clark brothers, lived?
Lloyd.
Lloyd. Okay. So, uh, when you and Grandma Dorothy moved to Chicago, or excuse me, moved to Colorado, how did the two of you support yourselves?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't realize what.
What, was Grandma working?
I know she drove a school bus at one time.
Okay.
I used to go out in the wintertime and start it up, warm it up for her.
Okay. You used to start up the school bus and warm it up as what, as a 15, 16-year-old?
Oh, yeah. Let's see, I graduated when I was 16, so I must have been about 15 then or 14.
So you graduated at age 16, so you moved a few times with your, you ended up, you graduating high school in Fort Collins, Colorado?
Yes.
Is that right? And
1947.
what was it like to go to high school in 1947? What do you remember that was different? I mean, was it a big school?
Well, I don't know what to compare it with.
Yeah. Okay. Was there? Well, it was a lot bigger than Centerville, I'm guessing.
yeah.
So, but was it a big group?
I remember, if I'm right, we had 103 boys and 103 girls in that class, even number.
Okay. Okay. So, you probably remember high school a little bit better. If you graduated at age 16, you must have had pretty good grades.
No, I started early.
Oh, you did. Okay.
My mother put me in kindergarten in Forbush, the country school.
Okay. Okay,
So that's how I got. I graduated early.
so you started at age 4 or 3 or whatever in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I think I was 4, but I don't know for sure.
Well, in high school, what classes did you like there? Because it's probably a little bit older now. You probably remember. Was there a class that was
English was my worst class.
English?
English I hated, and when I graduated, the last year I was in high school, I had to take English. Uh, let's see, I took English in 3 different times, like 3 different classes to
Okay.
catch up. Yeah,
Oh, so you're
And-
behind a little bit.
yeah.
Coming in.
And my one class was mathematics, and I could not get it through my head for some reason. And the teacher kept me after school one day, Mr. Sanborn, and he said, "Now what don't you understand?" And we went through it, and it cleared, just snapped, and it all fell into place.
Well, that was good that somebody did
Yeah.
that for you. Now, there must have been a subject that you did well at. There must have been something it was probably your strongest subject in school. What was that?
I
Was it
don't-
math? I mean, were you good in math and stuff?
Well, I did a pretty good in math, but I don't think that was my best subject.
Well, later on in the Navy, you must have done well to get the advancement that you did and the knowledge that you did. Was that all more mechanical versus?
That was mechanical.
Okay, okay. Well, what kind of car did you drive when you were in high school? Do you remember?
My first car was a Model T Coupe, 1920. I think it was a 24 or 25
Yeah.
in that area. And I think I had that for a while. I sold it for $60. My dad happened to come to Colorado to visit, and he was there the day I sold it. And then my next car was a 34 Ford Coupe. That was a good car. And I don't remember the cars after that.
So you had a T, and then you had a 34 Ford Coupe. Did your dad come out Colorado often, or did you see him much after
No.
his divorce? You didn't see him too much. But you had a lot of aunts and uncles there.
I had my Aunt Blanche was Lloyd's wife,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a daughter. I can't think of her name right
But you
now.
had was there Bob Clark out there? Did you see any of the other aunts and uncles come out?
I never seen. Well, Bob might have been visiting, but I don't remember him.
Okay. Did your aunt Avis live out there too?
She came out and lived with us. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So she lived with you and Grandma Dorothy.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you're in high school and you got a car and you're getting a little bit older, you must have had some jobs. What types of jobs did you have out there? What type of work did you do in high school and kind of before the Navy and stuff?
Gosh. I worked. I know I worked on a hay grinder for a while. It was 12-hour shifts, and I would pull into a field next to a haystack and start it up, and they had workers on top of the hay. They'd shovel it into a funnel, and they would grind it up and come inside the trailer. And my job is to pick them sackfuls of ground hay and sew them up and set them aside.
That
And
must have been a pretty hard work.
Well, that was heavy.
Now, who were your friends back in high school? You must have had a couple of friends from high school.
I had some guys I'd run around with in high school. George Beers was one, and Dan Hess was another one, and Bill Lawnmower. I can't remember anymore.
So you guys hung out? Were they lived close by, or
They lived in town.
what'd you guys do for fun in high school?
Oh gosh, we used to go up ice. I remember going ice skating one time. We all carried shotguns with us. I don't know why.
You went ice skating with shotguns.
Well, we took them with us, but
Why did you take guns when you went skating? I'm just
we might
curious.
have went hunting too at
Oh.
the same time.
Okay. Okay.
And, I can't. I know Elmer. The one kid's hat. Everybody's laughed at his stocking cap, and one of the guys grabbed it off his head and threw it in the air. We had our shotgun. We shot his stocking cap and all the hell.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, yet later you enlisted in the Navy.
1950,
Okay, so
December.
so how old were you when you enlisted in the Navy?
I was 20.
Okay, but you graduated high school at 16, 17, right around there?
Yeah.
Okay, so
47. I graduated.
what did you do between high school and the Navy?
I worked driving a big truck at down in Kansas. My best buddy was Charlie Mosher, and he was a neighbor. And we did a lot of stuff together. But he had an uncle down in Kansas that needed help to move wheat at his harvest time. So
Okay.
he talked me into going down with him, and I drove a big truck from the field into the building on the farm and then dumped it in there.
Okay, so you were again kind of doing some heavy, hard labor.
Well, yeah, most of it was the dump truck, backing into the building and dumping the grain.
So you were living in Kansas by yourself, is that right?
Well, I lived, Charlie had an uncle down there, and I was supposed to work for him, but when I got there, he was already had a full crew.
Okay.
So he talked to his neighbor. Charlie's uncle called a neighbor, and he needed a man, so I stayed with him. And I had my own bedroom, and we used to get up in the morning and go out and grease the machinery real early, and go back in the house and eat breakfast, which his wife prepared for us, and then go back out. The sun would have dried the wheat by then, so
Okay.
you get the dew off of it so we could harvest it.
Well, you were there for how long in Kansas? You said you went to.
I'm guessing 2 or 3 months, but I don't know exactly.
Okay, and then where did you move after that?
Oh boy.
Well, before you went into the service, right? You didn't go into the service till.
50.
Okay, so eventually you had to run into Joan Neeb. Where did you run into Joan Neeb, and how old were you before?
I moved to, when let's see. I'm trying to think. Oh, I was going to join the service, that's right. I was going to join the service, and I called my dad to tell him goodbye. And he said, don't join the service. He said, why don't you come to Chicago here and I'll get you a job with my friend. So I went to Chicago and stayed with my dad, who lived with his mother.
And her name was Nadalda?
Nadalda, yeah.
Okay.
And that Joan lived next door. That's how I met Joan.
Okay, so you met the neighbor girl.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you meet Joan Neeb? I mean, would you remember how you first met?
Uh-uh.
Okay, well, do you remember anything about your first date when you first went out with her? I mean, you've been married for 63 plus years,
Yeah.
and do you
I don't
remember?
remember the first date.
Okay, well, you must have met her. Was she outside or
Well,
something?
she was outside, yeah,
Okay,
but I don't remember how the first time I met her.
okay. You've been married for, like I said, over 60 years. How did you know that she was the one, and also what were the keys to that such a long marriage so far?
I suppose keeping your mouth shut.
Keeping your mouth shut, huh? So,
I can't remember.
well, it's okay. You don't, it's a long time ago when you first met, but you guys have been married together a long time. So, um, it's before the Navy, right? And
Yeah.
then you've met Joan. You were in Chicago. You're working along with your father.
No, I didn't work with Dad.
Oh, you work.
Dad worked as at a big welding shop.
Okay, he helped you get the
And
job.
my dad's friend
Okay,
had a auto repair shop, so I went to work for my dad's friend.
okay, so that's where you started learning most of your mechanical
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah.
So what? So you worked on cars, doing like engine work, body work, paint. What
Yeah,
did you do?
everything.
So, were you more a mechanic or a painter or a body man?
I
or
was
did
more a
you-
mechanic than I was anything else.
Okay, and they taught you on the job how to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you must have worked some pretty long hours back then. Do you remember back in 1950 how much money you made?
$25 a week.
$25 for
The
the
body man paid me 15, and the mechanic paid me 10.
Wow. So what did you do with that money?
Spent it.
What did you like to spend it on?
Oh gosh.
Did you take Joan out for some dates?
Oh yeah.
Where did you guys go?
A lot of times we go downtown Chicago to a movie.
Okay.
And a lot of them had stage plays. We saw Dean Barton and Jerry Lewis. I remember that show. I don't remember any other headliners other than that one.
Now, one of the stories that I've heard from Mom is that one of the dates that you picked her up on, you picked her up in a car that had no hood on it. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you drive up, the car doesn't have a hood, you can see the engine, and you're picking her up in that for the date. Is that right?
Yeah.
Was that your car?
Actually, I was going to use my uncle's car, who lived in Hammond, Indiana, and he said, "Bring me your car," and he said, "Oh, you can take mine." I think he had a big Buick, a new one, and when I took it down there without the hood, he said, "Christ, Jack," he said, "I can't drive that car around there without a hood on it." So I had to go back home, put the hood on the car, and bring it back.
Why'd you have the hood off? Just because you're working on it?
Yeah, I was working on it too.
Okay.
So
What did Mom say when you pulled up in the car with no hood?
I don't recall that.
She still got in it, though.
Oh yeah.
What do you think she liked about you?
Oh, I suppose it was my good looks.
Your good looks. Okay. Okay, so eventually you decide that you're going to still join the Navy. You've gone to Chicago now. You've got the job that your dad worked. You met a girl. You liked the girl.
Yeah.
So how did you end up in the Navy? I mean, what did you pick?
I don't know why. but I joined the Navy then at that time.
So that meant you were going to leave your girl behind.
Yeah,
Okay. How did that go over? What did Joan think when you did that?
I think we were both pretty sad about it.
Why did you do it? You just still wanted to go and do the
I
Navy?
suppose, yeah.
Did you feel like you wanted to serve your country, or was it to learn some stuff and get
Well, I
out?
figured I'd get some schooling out of it, which I did.
Okay.
When I first joined the Navy, they sent me to. They knew I had mechanical knowledge. They sent me to engineman school in San Diego for 6 weeks, and then when I got back from overseas, they sent me to Great Lakes for advanced diesel training.
How did they pick you to go to advance? So you must have done pretty well in the service.
Well, I think your exploits and your knowledge is what got you to the next school.
Okay.
Because went like I said, diesel engineman school,
So how long? Where were you stationed when you first went in the Navy?
San Diego.
Okay. And did your mom come out to see you there at all? Or?
Yeah, my mother and her came out and saw me in the service. Yeah.
Okay. So mom still lived in Chicago while you're stationed in San Diego.
Yeah.
She just came out and visited you.
Right. Right.
Okay. Well, I got to ask before we get into the Navy, how did you pick the Navy over the Army, the Air Force?
Well, we were the three of us, Jim McClall and me and Squeak Beaker, all hang around together.
Okay.
And we decided to go in the Navy one day. Well, we were debating whether to go to Coast Guard or Navy. I don't know why we picked the Navy, but we did. All three of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, tell me about your ship name. You were on the LSM?
LSM 161. It was a landing ship medium. It was the smallest ship that could go across the ocean on its own. 203 foot long.
Okay. So a LSM, a landing ship
Medium.
Okay, and that's the ship where the front of the ship has a big door that opens up. What did that ship do? How did it serve in the Navy?
It would go ashore, a beach. We'd open the bow doors and we hauled tanks, we hauled ammunition, we hauled gasoline, rockets, about anything we could get on the ship, we could haul it.
So, where were you stationed? I mean, when you talk about
Long
the ship,
Beach.
Long Beach, and you would go on the ship to what locations when you're servicing things?
Well, we went to Korea,
Okay, for the Korean War.
and we went to,
Incheon?
yeah, we were in Incheon, and we a bunch of islands we went to.
Okay, so
We'd
you
pull up on the beach and unload whatever we had. and
supplies
back
for all the
off.
troops and
Yeah.
everything? Okay. Well, how many men were on your ship? Do you remember roughly?
It's either 60 or 80. I
60
can't
or 80.
remember which.
Okay, okay. And when you went out on the ship, when you went out at sea, what was it like to be out at sea on a ship? You're on a
Small,
small, okay,
very small.
very tight living quarters.
Well, it always is in the service.
Yeah.
But,
So you
yeah,
guys slept in bunk bed type,
bunk, 3 high.
3 high bunk beds.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was the food like? What did you eat?
Normal food. They had one or I can't remember if they had one or two cooks.
How,
I remember one cook, but I don't remember the other guy.
how long at sea was the longest you think you were out at sea before you came into shore?
Uh, I would guess 9 days.
Okay. Would it feel good to get back on shore after being at sea for 9 days?
Yeah, that was the longest trip. Was when we went to Korea. We went to San Diego first, or we were in San Diego or Long Beach, I can't remember, and we left for Korea from there.
Okay. Okay.
Went to Hawaii and had an engine broke down in Hawaii, and so we got left behind.
When you were in Hawaii, did you go to Pearl Harbor?
I was stationed in Pearl.
How long were you in Pearl?
Just till we got the mechanical work done on the stuff that our crew couldn't handle. It was too big. We had to pull alongside a repair ship.
And that would take care of your
That would
fix your
take
ship.
care of our, yeah.
Okay. Now, while you're in the Navy, you got some tattoos.
No, all my tattoos were done before I went in the Navy.
Before you went in the Navy. Okay. Well, tell me the story about the day you got your tattoos. And by the way, what were your tattoos of? I know one, you got two hands shaking a.
I got a rose and I had an eagle.
Okay. And who went with you when you got your tattoos?
My cousin Buck.
Okay. And was Buck from Centerville, Iowa?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so he was there at the time. And Buck was a pretty big guy, right?
Yeah.
Was he one of your biggest friends ever? I remember you told me some stories that he was a pretty strong guy.
Oh, he was strong.
What could he do that you remember about Buck?
I remember one time he got one of the guys we knew had an old car, and he lifted the back end of that thing up. I don't know how the hell he ever done it, but he did it.
He lifted the whole car, the back end.
I suppose that it just took the tension off the springs, but I don't know.
Wow. Okay. So you went to get these tattoos. What was it like when you got those?
We just went to a tattoo artist.
And they just did it right away,
Did it
right
right
there.
away, yeah.
Okay. Now, I know you don't like talking about this. However, while you're in the service in 1952, it's your captain, Captain Van Kuren, is his name?
Van Kuren, yeah.
Van Kuren. He awarded you the Meritorious Service Award in front of all your officers and shipmates, and I read the letter, the commendation, and he said the award was for your courage and valor above and beyond the call of duty and at the risk of your life. So I know this story a little bit, but I want you to tell me a little bit more about it. You were doing this at night, you're in Korea, and your ship's anchor got caught up, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we went in the beach and unloaded a load of equipment and stuff, and then when we went, usually when you go in the beach, you drop your anchor way out, and let the ship go in. And after we landed unloaded, the ship came up out of the water a little bit, and we used the rear anchor to pull us off the beach again.
Okay.
And our anchor got hooked with some other cable that was under the water. We never knew whose cable it was, and we could not move. It was jammed in our anchor.
So you guys are stuck,
We were stuck, yeah.
and it's at night, and there's rocks there too, right?
The what?
It said there was rocky shore. I was reading. It said the rocks were there. But anyway, you got fouled up there, and you couldn't move.
Anchor fouled up on the other anchor shade or cable.
Okay.
So we had to go over the stern of the ship to cut. Well, they wanted to know what to do, and nobody wanted to do anything. Seemed like didn't know what to do, and I said I could cut that anchor.
So you volunteered to cut it.
I went down over the side or over the fantail, and I cut the.
Well, how tall is the ship? How tall up? How high up are you? It must have. If you were to jump off the
No,
top.
I didn't jump.
No, but I know. But if you were to jump off the ship, how far was it to the water?
Probably 10 or 15 feet.
Okay, so they lowered you on a rope.
Yeah, I had a rope around under my arms,
Okay.
and I had a cutting torch, and the waves would come in and knock the flame out of the torch. I had to keep lighting that torch.
So you're first of all, you're in the Navy and you're not a great swimmer. Is that right?
No.
So you volunteered to go over the side of the ship with people lowering you down with a rope and what, a cutting torch?
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna.
I cut that cable, the old cable. Don't know whose ship it was, but I just cut that cable, and that let us loose to come away from the rocks. Yeah, that's all.
So your ship's out there. You're lowered over the side. You got waves splashing around you, knocking the torch out, and you cut this thing, and then they pulled you back up. So when you got that thing cut, did you were you the big man on campus on the ship for a little? Were they pretty happy with you?
I was so scared that I shook. I remember I went to my bunk when it was all over.
Was that a tough one? Well, scare you quite a bit doing that?
That's it.
But you got it done. You learned something for it, and you took that chance, and you saved your ship. And
Well, I don't know.
well, you guys were stuck. You weren't going anyplace, so somebody's going to have to.
They could have cut the cable. We would have lost our cable too.
Yeah, but you saved that from doing it, and then you guys got on your way. So
Yeah.
So did you get a bunch of high fives when you came up?
Too wet and too cold.
It was cold out there?
Well, it was when you're wet.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. So you got that done. You were in the Navy a lot. Now, I remember you was telling me about Squeak Meeker. Okay. You, Jim McFall, and Squeak Meeker, right? So there was a story, I can't remember what it was, but you were in the Navy sometime, and the story was Squeak Meeker, and were you guys in town, and somebody, I don't know, there was a story with Squeak Meeker. Well, I don't know if he got in a fight or.
No, that wasn't Squeak.
Who was that?
That was Harold.
Harold Worthy?
Harold Worthy, and he's from Kansas. He was my best friend.
And Harold was the one who moved
We were in a bar
Okay.
drinking, and 2 or 3 booths down, there was 3 guys sitting in the booth, and Harold was talking to these waitresses, laughing with them, but the guys didn't like it. So they wadded up a cigarette pack and threw it, you know, and Harold just kind of laughed about it. And he says, here's what we'll do. And he was a daredevil. He says, we'll get up, we'll walk by the seat. He said, there are two guys sitting on one side and you on the other. Or one on one side and two on the other. And he said, when we get close to them, he said, they can't get out of the booth. He said, you take the side with one guy and I'll take the side with two. And he said, well, pound the hell out of them right there. I said, you ain't going to do nothing with me. You know, he wanted to take them on. He wanted to take them on. I said, no way would I do that.
So did you tell him you were a lover and not a fighter?
I told him I was chicken.
Well, there's no sense of getting in a fight if you don't have to.
No.
You know, no sense of starting something. While you're in the Navy, you married Mom. You married Joan Neeb in Long Beach, California.
Right.
Now do you remember what year you got married?
53.
1953. Okay. Tell me what you remember about the wedding. First of all, how did you propose to Mom? I mean, you're in the Navy. She's in Chicago. She's coming out to see you a little bit. Did she move out there?
No.
So-
Well, we got married at St. Anthony's Church in Long Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And we went, the night we got married, we went to Knott's Berry Farm. Harold was my best man,
Okay.
him and his wife.
And you got married in your Navy uniform?
Yeah.
So you're married out there, but how did you propose to Mom? How did you ask her to marry you?
You know, I don't remember.
Did you give her a ring? You must have got a ring.
I must have had the ring, yeah.
A long time ago.
We bought it I bought that ring in Hertine and Stocker in Iowa City.
Okay, so you bought the ring in Iowa City. How did you get to Iowa City?
I must have been on leave or something.
Okay. And how did you end up in Iowa City, though?
Well, Avis and Frank were here, my aunt and uncle.
Okay, so you came by for a visit or something when you're...
Yeah, we were in Chicago, and then Joan, let's see, Gary was born in Chicago. And then we moved to Iowa City. I told her I couldn't live in Chicago, it's too noisy.
Okay. Okay, so you want to move to Iowa City, but you got married in the Navy in Long Beach, okay? But before you moved there, didn't you move to Alaska? You lived in Kodiak, right?
Yeah. After we were married, my ship got transferred to ARC rescue duty in Kodiak, and Joan that's where she came up there when my ship was there.
So she joined you in Alaska.
Yeah, right.
So you got this skinny girl from Chicago, from the city, to move all the way to Alaska to live on a Navy base. Is that
No,
right?
we lived in town.
Oh, you lived in town?
Yeah,
Okay, is that where the Quonset hut was?
yeah.
Oh, that was part of the town. Okay. But you got to move up there, and you lived in a Quonset hut, so a metal hut. And what do you remember about that? What do you remember about living in Kodiak? It must have been cold. What was it? What was it like?
If I remember right, I don't think it got real cold. I think the Japanese current, or somebody told me, kept it a little warmer. And I think the coldest it got was 17, but I might be wrong on that.
Okay. So what was it like in, how long were you in Kodiak?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Were you
how
there
long.
more than a year?
Oh no, it
Okay.
wasn't that long.
Okay. Wasn't
They
very.
found out that the sewer system was too small to carry the load,
Mm-hmm.
so they said anybody with their wives up here, they have to go home. You know.
Okay.
So then we went back to the ship, me and my other buddy,
Okay.
and
Where did Mom go? If you went back to the ship, she didn't come on the ship.
no,
She moved back
But-
to Chicago.
I think she moved back to Chicago. I'm pretty sure.
How long were you guys apart?
I can't remember.
Okay,
How long?
Okay, but then you eventually you got out of the service, right? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, and you moved back. But before we go to the next question, I wanted to ask you, tell me a little bit about what you remember about Teresa and Joe Neeb, Mom's parents. You must have got along well with them. Did they like you? And
Oh yeah, we got along real well. Me and her dad were good friends. And her mother was a saint. She was really great.
So she always treated you really well and everything, and you were there. So do you remember? Do you remember anything fun about Grandma Treese or Papa Joe Neeb that you could say? What you said he treated you well. What did he like to do?
He
He liked sports.
drink beer.
He liked to drink beer, huh? So
I can't remember.
he have a good sense of humor.
Oh
Good-
yeah, good sense of humor. Yeah,
And what was he? He worked for the railroad, right? He worked for the Rock Island Railroad
for years.
for years and years. And Grandma Treese, do you remember anything that she did? Or I mean, had 4 daughters, so was she? Do you remember anything special about her?
Yeah, she always thought we all were the special ones. Her children and spouses.
Well, that's good.
She was really great.
That's good. That's good. Now Nadalda, is in Chicago too, right?
And she lived next door to me.
Well, I remember you telling me a long time ago, we were talking about how Nadalda passed away, and you said that she
Fell from the porch.
was on the porch and she fell off and died?
Yeah, hit her head. Yeah.
Hit her head. So there's no railings or anything? She just fell
Well, it
off
was a regular porch.
Okay.
I mean, it had a rail. She was starting to go down the stairs.
and just fell and hit her head.
Yeah.
Were you there when that happened?
No,
Were you?
I was working in Iowa City. I lived here then.
Okay. So you had moved then to Iowa City, right?
Right.
After the service, you're living with mom. You're on. Tell me about the first place you moved to.
It was on Campbell Street in Chicago. 63rd and Campbell.
Okay.
It was
And-
just 2-bedroom apartment.
And then, but you moved to Iowa City eventually.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
so when you moved to Iowa City, tell me about that. How did you convince mom to move to Iowa City
I just told her that I couldn't live
in Chicago?
in Chicago.
You wanted to get something else.
I wanted to go somewhere else. I said, and then, of course, she was real sad because her family was here. And I said, we'll try it for a year and see how it works out. If it don't work out, we'll move somewhere. But I said, not back to Chicago.
Okay.
So that's the way it.
Just too big of a city.
Too big, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you moved to Iowa City. When you first moved to Iowa City, do you remember where your first house was or where you lived?
Yeah, we lived on Cheese Street in
Okay.
Iowa City.
And then only people living in Iowa City at that time were Avis and Frank
And
Pogenpole.
Jim McFall,
Jim McFall was Avis's
son.
son. Okay. And at that point, what jobs did you have when you first came to town? I remember you said you worked for the
I worked
the
for the
city.
university and part-time. And I was a painter for the Ford Garage, painting cars. And I worked as unloading semis, furniture out of semis. You know, people that are moving, they had load their furniture in the semis. I'm trying to think of the word to use.
A moving man.
Moving man, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I carried furniture that way. And what else? There was something else. I had a job.
I thought you said that when you did some work for the utility company when you came into town, didn't you? You guys put the sewer in, or you put the
Oh, gas line.
gas lines?
Yeah. Finished the gas line going out to the terminal on First Avenue in Corville.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Jim and Squeak.
Okay.
Now wait a minute. There's
I gotta
something-
ask
no,
before we go any further. How did he get the name Squeak? Squeak.
I don't know.
But-
He was Jim's buddy.
Okay.
That's how I met him.
Okay.
But that was before we went to service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That was before you went in the service. So when
Yeah.
when you came back, you did, and then eventually you moved. You got into the house on our childhood home on First Avenue, 1205 First Avenue.
We bought the lot and then built the house on the lot. I did a lot of the work on that one.
Now, when you built the house we lived in, we didn't have a whole house. You only built a half a house. Is that-
Basement.
You built the basement and you just had a flat top where the
Right,
The main
right.
story was going to go, but all you could afford was the basement to start with?
Yeah, and I worked a little bit each. I did, well, I had the house framed, and then
Okay.
I did a lot of the work myself because I was enclosed.
Is that where you met Jim Schindler, the construction guy?
Yeah, right.
So did he help you build the house?
Yes.
Okay. And did he have his own company then, or was he just helping you as a friend?
Uh, I don't think he had his own company.
Okay.
Well, he might have. He might have. I don't know.
But you guys built this house and you moved into the basement. And that's when
Yeah.
you started into work with Jim McFall. You wanted to do some work on automotive upholstery.
Yeah.
Okay. So you and Jim worked together for a
Well,
while.
Jim had started a business up on Muscatine, and he could not afford to hire anybody. So there was a program for veterans that they would, the government would pay part of my wage, and I can't think of what the term was for it, but that's when I started working for Jim.
Okay. And you worked with Jim, and you guys
And then
eventually.
we went into this business together in 1963.
Okay. And did you start that business on Riverside Drive right away, or did you do it out of his house?
Well,
his
Jim had a shop on Muscatine, and we bought the lot on Riverside Drive, and
Then built on
built on it. Yeah.
it. Okay. So that's when you built the bigger building and made the investment and became partners with
Yeah,
Jim McFall.
right,
And you
right.
ended up working with him for, I don't know how many years before you went into your own business.
1977.
Okay.
We
So
split our partnership. His son went with him. My son went with me.
you're good, son? So then, while you're in Iowa City, you built this house. You ended up having 4 children. Okay, the oldest, Gary, was born in August of 1955.
Yeah.
Okay, how did you and Mom come up with the name Gary Michael? You remember who picked Gary?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you remember how you picked the middle name, or was there any ties to that stuff that rings a bell for you on how you guys picked it?
No, I don't remember how we picked it.
What was it like when you had a baby in 1955? I take it you weren't in the delivery room when
No.
Gary was born. So
No.
what did you do? Just drive Mom to the hospital, get her,
Dropped her off.
dropped her off, and
Told her I'd pick her up the next day.
okay. So that's the way it worked. Nobody went in and saw the babies back then, right? Not like today. So your second child, Bob, was born 2 years later. Okay. How did you and Mom choose the name Robert Keith?
That I do not know. I think the Robert was for my Uncle Bob.
Okay.
Uh,
And that'd be your mother's brother,
Yeah.
Bob Clark.
Yeah. I don't know how we picked Keith.
Okay. So well, before we go there, so, what do you remember about Robert Clark or Bob Clark? What was it that you liked about that uncle? Because you had several uncles, but what did you like about Bob Clark?
Oh, he was really a free spirit. He was a fun guy.
Okay.
We always looked forward to him coming back to Forbush when I was little. Always looked for Uncle Bob to come because he was so much fun. He'd take us for a ride in his new car all the time. He was a really good guy.
What did he do for a living?
He was construction of some kind. I don't know exactly what.
Sound like he liked to. He was kind of a ladies' man too. A little.
Oh, two or three.
Two or three.
Uncle Bob was something else.
So he was married the first time.
3 times.
3 times. Okay. And do you remember his wife's names at all?
Aunt Jack was one of them,
Okay.
and Cleo was another one. That was his first wife.
And
There's another one too, but I can't think of her name.
so he liked to have a good time. Was a fun
Good-
guy to be
good
around.
time.
Good with all the kids.
Oh yeah.
Made sure you guys had fun. Did he take you for a ride in his cars and stuff?
Oh, he had a new car all the time. He'd take us for a ride.
He liked to have an occasional drink too. Is that right?
Well, I think every time he came to Centerville, he always brought a case of whiskey with him. He was quite a drinker.
Okay. So after that, you had a daughter, Susan.
Daughter Susan.
Susan Marie. How did you come up with the name Susan?
I don't know, but I named her.
You named her.
And
So
I
you-
just like that name.
So you got to name Bob and Susan. Okay. Did you name Gary too?
I don't remember.
It was that both of you maybe together. Okay. I know it was Gary Michael Joseph, and was it Joseph for Joe Neeb?
Yeah,
Okay. Mom wanted that as his confirmation.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, what was it like with Susan when she was born? Was it any different than? Well, first of all, with Bob, when you went to the hospital, was it the same thing? You dropped Mom off again and pull up?
They wouldn't let the husbands be up with them like they do today.
Okay. Did you go into the hospital, or you just wait for the call when the baby's born and
No, I was in the hospital, but waiting room.
in the waiting room?
Yeah,
So, how did you feel when they came out? You didn't know you were going to have another boy at that
didn't
time.
know. Felt good.
So what about with Susan? Now you've got a daughter, your first daughter. What was that like, having a daughter?
I really liked it. I called my mother right away and told her that Susan was born. I named her Susan Marie.
And what was the Marie from? Do you remember?
That I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know where the Marie.
Do you know where the Susan came from? You just like the name?
I just like the name. Yeah.
Okay. So then, later down the road, Michael Joseph Schubat. Is that right?
Yep.
So how did you guys come up with the name Michael?
That I don't know either.
And that Joseph
Joseph was Joe too, named.
So that was for Mom's father, Joseph
Yeah.
Neeb.
Mhm.
Okay. So now you have 4 kids. So what kind of memory do you have of those 4 kids? Is there anything there that you remember?
Busy. Seemed like we were always going to baseball games or basketball games or wrestling. You were a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
We used to try to go to as many of those beats as we could. I know you played Little League ball, and I know, what's the next step up?
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth.
Down at the Mercer
Yeah,
Park.
yeah.
You went to some of those games when you
Yeah.
could, but you were working all the time. You were working 2 jobs to support those 4
Yeah,
kids.
that's right. That's right.
What were your jobs when you were working to support those kids?
Well, one of them was in university.
And the other one was with the automotive upholstery?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So you remember, with each of your children, okay, I know this is hard to try to come up with memories, but is there anything that you remember about, let's say, Gary's childhood or Gary growing up that was kind of stuck with you, always kind of stuck with you? It could be funny, it could be happy,
A lot
it
of
could
things
be
you don't remember.
proud, anything that stands
Well, I
out?
was proud of my whole family. They were all good. They all turned out good. No problems. But, it's hard to remember. Sometimes you think of something and say, oh, now I remember.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's pretty hard.
Okay. So you had pretty good memories with all your children. All 4 kids ended up going to college.
All of them went through college, yeah.
You didn't go to college.
No,
Mom didn't go to college.
no.
So you must have been pretty special for you guys to see everybody do well and have children. Okay, so you restored a lot of cars over the years. Okay, I'm going to go just a couple of random questions here, but you restored a lot of cars over the years, and all different ages of your life and that, but even later in life, you've restored some cars too. What were a couple of your favorites?
My most favorite one was 57 Chevy convertible. And also a 1924 Franklin. Those are my 2.
2 favorites.
2 favorites.
Okay. And you redid everything on those, right? You built a 55 as well, and you
Yeah.
built a 55 Chevy Nomad.
Yeah.
You like that one too? Okay. Why did you like that 57? Did you just always
Just always liked the 57.
like the shape of it and
Yeah.
stuff? Okay. And you and Mom ended up taking that car out on several Motor Iowa trips and
Yeah.
stuff. Was that a good time to do all that and drive with all
yeah.
those cars? You guys
Yeah.
had a good time. Okay. What is something that you always wanted to try to do but you've never done? Or something you wish you were able to do?
I would like to. I did learn to fly,
Fly planes? You're talking about small
like
planes?
small airplanes, yeah. But I never did get my lever. I think I only had about 4 hours of travel time in an airplane. Learning, I never did get my license.
So you flew a small plane, you took off, you landed,
Yeah.
and that was while you lived out on Tree Farm Lane, right?
Yes.
And you decided one day that, first of all, I bet Mom wasn't real excited about you learning to fly.
No.
Okay, but one day you decided, I'm not going to fly anymore. Can you tell me why you decided you weren't going to fly anymore?
Well, it's no fun you know, if your spouse doesn't like it, if you get scared like she was, and of course, naturally, she wouldn't go. If I asked her to go for a ride with me, it never happened.
But didn't you? I thought you told me one time before you stopped flying that you were flying and you're landing, and I don't know if there was a bad wind or something came, but it kind of scared you a little bit in that plane.
It was a real windy day.
And what was that like when you're flying in a plane and you're
Harry.
You're saying, what am I doing up here?
Yeah.
And you decided that was it. You're just going to
Yeah.
do something else.
Well, I couldn't do anything with it. I could go for a ride myself, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But really, it gets old going by yourself, you know.
Well, tell me this. I got one last question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Don't do it.
I'm going to try it. So you're going to be 86 in about in November here, right? So
Yes.
So you have 4 children, you had 10 grandchildren, and you have 4 great-grandchildren. So first of all, I got two questions here for you. First of all, can you name all your children, all your grandchildren, and all your great-grandchildren? So who are your children? You got Gary,
Gary, Bob, Michael, Susan,
okay, and then what do you have for grandchildren?
there's Ryan, and
How many kids does Gary have?
2, Ryan,
And
and I know Jamie.
Jamie, okay.
Yeah.
And then Bob's got 2
Bob,
kids.
there's Jack, and Rachel.
Okay. And then
And
Susan
Ray.
has 2 kids.
Susan's got Amy, and Scott.
Okay. And Michael's got,
Michael's got let me see. I got
who's Michael's oldest? Going to
Michael
college
Rose
here.
is
How many boys and girls does Michael have?
he's got 1 boy and 3 girls. Sophia is one of the girls.
Mm-hmm.
Cassidy's one of the more girls. And not Ryan, but Isabel's a girl. And the boy, Eli. And all the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren. Oh,
Rachel's got 2 boys.
Rachel's got 2 boys.
And you see them
Winston and Winston and Wesley.
Mm-hmm.
And
Jamie has
Jamie's got Amelia.
Uh-huh.
Let's see.
And Amy has,
Amy has, oh, I know, Owen.
Owen. So you made it through all those kids and all those grandchildren and all those great-grandchildren. So last question for you. And you don't have to answer right away, but what advice can you share with all those children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren on how to live a long and happy, full life? Because you certainly have one. You've had a very long and good life. You've got a lot of children and family and people that love you, and you've got a pretty full life with mom and 60 plus years of marriage. But what advice, if you were going to give to those kids today, what would it be? If there's something they should do in life or not do or whatever, what is it that advice that you would give them?
Well, find somebody like I did that you really love. And still do.
Mm-hmm.
And always do what's right, whether it hurts or not.
That sounds like some pretty good advice.
Yeah. There's probably more. I've sat here long enough to think about it, but that'd
Yeah.
be a long time.
Well, I don't want to keep you any longer. We've taken our time, so I just wanted to say, is there any last thing you'd like to say to anybody?
Yeah, I love all my family. And I guess just kind of slow down later in life.
Enjoy life?
Enjoy it a little bit, yeah.
Well, good. Well, that's all I got for you today. We're all done.
That's enough.
That's enough. So that's a wrap, okay?
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks a lot. All right, that's it.
Now I'm hungry.